Good morning, kids, and welcome to another video where we're going to be talking about the book of James, or the letter of James. Now, I'm really excited to see all you guys this morning again. This is our fourth video going through the book of James, and it's been really fun to be able to talk about what God says in the Bible and also to see your faces. And I also wanted to point out, it's been a beautiful week. The weather has warmed up, and maybe you've been able to get outside a little bit. I hope that you've been able to enjoy some of this beautiful weather before all of the beautiful snow falls on the ground. Now, do you guys remember, last week we had a video on James chapter 3. Do you guys remember what we learned about last week? What did we learn about last week? Yeah, last week we learned about our tongues and how they can either be like a sword or they can be like a bandage. If we wield our tongues like a sword, wildly waving it about, we can hurt or cut or wound somebody. But if we wield our tongues like a bandage, it actually can bring healing or help to people instead. It can be a little bit like a salve that you put on a burn or a cut. In Proverbs 12:18, we talked about how it says, "There is one whose rash words are like a sword thrust, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." And that was in Proverbs 12:18. So, you and I need to be careful about what we say. We can use our words well, or we can use them poorly. We can say mean things, or we can say helpful, nice things. But today, though, we're going to continue on, and we're going to talk about James chapter 4. And I want to highlight only one verse today. There's a lot going on in James chapter 4, but we're going to highlight a verse in chapter 4, verse 17. And I have my Bible here with me, and I'm going to read it to you guys this morning. It says in James 4:17, "Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it." Let's read that one more time. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. Well, that's actually a pretty easy verse for you and I to understand. God tells us in James that if you and I know the right thing to do when we don't do it, we're sinning. And if we know the right thing to do, we should just do it. It's pretty simple. But you know what is hard about that verse in James 4:17? It's hard actually doing the right thing. What are some ways that we might struggle to do the right thing? One way we might struggle to do the right thing is to tell the truth. Another way we might struggle to do the right thing is to be nice to our brothers and sisters or our classmates, perhaps if they're being mean to us. Another way we might struggle to do the right thing is to listen to and obey our moms and dads. That can be really hard when we don't want to do what they're asking us to do. And here with me, I have Mr. Chuckles and I have Leroy, our friendly neighborhood wyvern. And I'm excited that they're here with me today because they have a story to tell. In fact, they're going to tell us more about the story of when they were playing dodgeball and the team captains were picking players. So, Mr. Chuckles, are you willing to tell us the story about what happened after or during the dodgeball experience?
Well, if you guys remember from before, we were picking teams for dodgeball, and the other captain was being mean to Leroy because he didn't have any arms.
I don't want Leroy on my team. He doesn't have any arms. He can't even throw a ball. He's useless.
Well, I'll take Leroy then.
Ha 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 ha! You're gonna lose. What's he gonna do? Roll a ball at me?
Well, it was when he was being mean to Leroy. I started to get really angry with him. I got so angry that he was being so mean to Leroy that I said some mean things to him. Oh, you know what? Your long neck looked like a gnarly tree trunk, big and fat, and I bet you can't even see that well from all the way up there. Well, after that, I knew right away that I had been mean to him. And God reminded me of Proverbs 12:18, where it says, "There is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." But instead of apologizing to him, even though I knew I said mean things, I just pretended like it never happened.
Yeah, You should have said you were sorry, Mr. Chuckles. I was really grateful that you stuck up for me. That was really nice when he was picking on me. But calling him names, that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, I know I should have. But he said mean things to you, and so I said mean things about him even though I knew that was wrong. I knew the right thing to do. I knew I shouldn't call him names. And I did it anyways. And God says in James 4:17 that that's a sin.
Mr. Chuckles, did you ever go apologize to him for saying those mean things?
No, I haven't apologized to him yet, but I know I should. And if I don't apologize, like I know I should, I'm sinning, right?
Yeah. If you know you should apologize for saying mean or hurtful things, and you don't, you're sinning. But that's hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to do. He was so mean to you, it just doesn't feel right for me to apologize to him, especially if he doesn't apologize to you like he should.
That is really hard. But we can't control him, and we can't tell him what to do. He has to choose to do the right thing, and you have to choose to do the right thing. Just like when you chose to forgive me for stealing that delicious, rotten broccoli pizza.
You're right. I can't make him be nice to us, but I can obey God and be nice to him and apologize. I should go do that today.
Wow. I did not know there was more to that story. Well, thank you both, Leroy and Mr. Chuckles, for sharing it with us. And I think you're both right. The right and good and godly thing to do would be for you to go and apologize to the other dodgeball captain for having said those mean and hurtful things, even though he was being mean. And as it says in James 4:17, remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not to do it. You know the right thing to do, that you should apologize to him, so you should do it. So you see, guys and gals, there are a lot of times when we know the right thing to do, but it is really hard to do. Sometimes we need to obey our mom and dad and clean up our rooms, and we just don't want to do it. Maybe it's really messy, or it's a lot of work, or it's going to take a long time, or maybe we just want to do something else. But God tells us to listen to and to obey our moms and dads, so we should clean up our rooms, and if we don't, we're sinning, like it says in James 4:17. Sometimes we know that we need to say we're sorry and ask for forgiveness, like Mr. Chuckles needs to do to the other dodgeball captain. And we know sometimes we've done something hurtful and wrong, and we need to say sorry and ask for forgiveness. And if we don't do it, we're sinning. But God tells us that we need to ask for forgiveness. Sometimes you and I know that we need to tell the truth, but we don't want to, because we might get in trouble for telling the truth. We might get in trouble with our parents or our teachers or one of our family members. But in Psalm 34:13 it says, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. And if we lie to our parents or a teacher or someone else to try to not get in trouble, we're not doing the right thing. We're sinning, like it talks about in James 4:17. But I should also say, everybody struggles with this. Your parents struggle with this just as much as you do. Doing the right thing can be really hard. Your teachers struggle with this thing. Your friends and family too. See, everybody struggles to do the right thing, especially when it's hard to do. And one thing we can do when we are struggling to do the right thing is to pray to God for strength and ask Him for courage to do the right thing. God promises to help us when we need Him, and so if we ask Him, we know that He's there with us, helping us. And before we go, I thought it would be a good thing for us to ask ourselves a question, or to ask you a question. What is it that you struggle with doing? What right thing do you struggle to do? Do you struggle to tell the truth? Do you struggle to be nice? Do you struggle to obey your mom and dad? Do you struggle to ask forgiveness when you know you did something wrong? Or is it something else? I think it's good for us to think about questions like that and answer them to ourselves. Maybe you can talk to the person sitting next to you about the things you struggle to do. But you know what we can do? When we know the answers to these questions, when we know what it is that we struggle to do, we can always talk to God about it and ask Him for help to do it better. So thank you guys for joining me today, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and can practice doing the right thing. Until next time.